Welcome to the Texas Talks podcast. I'm your host, Brad Swail. Today is the first in a three-part series, Texas Talks presents Hemp in Texas. Our first guest in the series is Janae Sergio, a Navy combat veteran, best-selling author, and passionate advocate who has dedicated her life to transforming trauma into triumph. Today, as Director of Development for Grunt Style Foundation, Janae leads the charge in veteran suicide prevention and advocacy for alternative healing modalities. Janae, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's really a pleasure. I love getting to do this, and I love getting to talk to people like you. I'm excited to be doing this series. Let's start. I gave a pretty brief description there. Could you expand on that?
As a Navy combat veteran myself, everybody that works for Grunt Style Foundation or that is in the Irreverent Warriors community, we have watched as our brothers and sisters are taking their lives in massive numbers. And so we've dedicated our lives to advocating for healing modalities that differ from what the VA is offering in order to help save our brothers and sisters. And so I'm here in speaking on behalf of our veterans, specifically the 1.4 million veterans in Texas, to make sure that this modality, which is readily available and legal, remains available for our veterans.
So if we could go just a little bit deeper into sort of everyone knows about veterans and, I guess the VA, we always hear it's underfunded and underperforming, that sort of stuff. I'm not a veteran myself, so thank you for your service. And thank you to all the other veterans out there for what they've done and sacrificed. I don't really understand why that is. It seems like veterans would be the one, sacrificing for your country, it seems like you would be more taken care of. And it's always sad to hear that they aren't in different ways. You're a combat veteran yourself. Can you help the listeners sort of wrap their mind around why it is that, going to being a combat veteran, coming back, why are there so many, PTSD and mental health problems? And I can imagine the physical pain if you got shot or broken a limb or whatever happens. That's easy to understand, but the mental part is more difficult.
So first thing for perspective, since post 9/11, about 7,000 veterans or military members have been killed in combat. Since post 9/11, though, in the past 20 years, over 160,000 veterans have taken their lives. So the disparity between the two is already an issue. When we talk about the VA, Secretary Doug Collins, the VA secretary himself, admitted that over $3 billion annually is spent on veteran suicide, and yet the number remains anywhere between 19 and 22 veterans are taking their lives per day. We suspect that might actually be higher, possibly even double that. So that would double the 160,000 that I also just explained. We suspect it's higher because those numbers are only the numbers that are reported to the VA. So, for example, if you have a veteran who drives their car at 100 miles an hour into a wall intentionally, that's going to be classified as accidental, not necessarily suicide.
Yeah.
With regards to the care that our veterans get post-service, if you look at the VHA system, 68% of veterans who are in the VHA system are prescribed SSRIs or antidepressants. These are medications that have a 3 to 4 time higher suicide ideation rate than before the veteran even came in. And oftentimes, these veterans are going into the VA with physical pain ailments, and they're being referred over to behavioral health, where they're then prescribed a medication that may make them suicidal when they weren't even suicidal in some instances. So the way that veterans are being cared for historically has been an issue, and in many cases, it's causing them to be, more suicidal. What's more is that when they're prescribed these SSRIs and antidepressants, there's not really a plan properly to titrate them off of these medications. So if you try to titrate yourself off these medications, you're actually increasing your suicidal ideations then as well.
So it sounds the way that you're describing it, and maybe there's some some cases where it's not exactly like that, but the broad picture is, here's a pill, kind of go away.
Exactly. It's not individualized care. It's just, here's some medication. And even in my instance, I had a mental health crisis last year. And when I walked into the VA feeling suicidal and asking for help, I was given antidepressants, and it was just kind of like, here, take these, go away. I didn't really get individualized care. And then I was given a refill without even following up on me to make sure these medications were working for me or they weren't working for me. In that situation that I was going through, it was a personal hardship that I was dealing with. I really just needed kind of an opportunity to kind of work through that immediate mental health crisis in the moment. And then I needed to still have the clarity of mind and the focus in order to deal with the issues that were happening in my life. If I had started taking that medication, I would have been lethargic, I would have been disassociated, and I wouldn't have taken the actions that I needed in order to pull me out of the situation I was in. And so I refused to use that medication, and I ended up using the hemp-derived consumables in order to just deal with those moments of anxiety, kind of bring me down, give me the pause that I needed. And then that way I could come back with a clearer mind and focus to be able to resolve my issues. So when you're putting people on these medications that are making them lethargic, that are making them disassociated, that are removing them from society and kind of having them hunker down, these are purpose-driven people. Remember, veterans join the military because we're purpose-driven. We want to serve.
Yeah.
And then you put us on a medication that makes it to where it's not possible for us. You're compounding the problem that we have. We need healthy veterans. We need to be giving veterans individualized care and healing modalities with whatever it is that works best for them so that they can go out and continue to serve and thrive in society. We don't want our veterans just stuck at home on medication.
Yeah, I mean, it's powerful that you've been through that and, come out on the other side advocating and being productive and trying to help others. So that's really awesome. I wanted to circle back I want to get more into that if you're willing to, but circling back just a little bit, 7,000 deaths from the I guess the Afghan war, Iraq war, all that stuff from since 9/11, 160,000 potentially more suicides. Is that unique to the modern era? I mean, we've had bigger wars, World War I, World War II. Is there numbers on the mental health impacts of those wars on veterans before?
I can't speak to the data
Sure.
that would be available. I could speak to the data, semi-speak to some of the data that, there were more combat-related deaths
Sure.
In previous wars. I unfortunately am not well-versed right now on the number of suicide. I don't know that it was being tracked, to be honest. Like, I think that this is more of, as we continue to progress as society, we start to actually look at what those issues are for our veterans. But, if you look at Vietnam era veterans, they weren't getting the care at all. Many of them never got an opportunity to get a disability rating from the VA and to get some of the care they deserved. And a lot of them, they had kind of that mental model of like, I'm not even going to go in and ask for help because mental health as a conversation back then was a little bit taboo.
Yeah.
And you didn't really admit to having suicidal ideations or mental health issues. So I think that's something that really came to light in a big way through the GWAT era. And so we're still trying to get those veterans into the system as we speak.
Yeah, and there's plenty of Vietnam veterans still, suffering the consequences of that experience and probably looking for alternatives to whatever is being offered, just that pill and go away.
Exactly.
So that's you go through this personal experience of yours, and you come out the other side, and you say that you used these hemp products.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go through like the teacup program? Did you just go to the local whatever shop and just how did you go about doing that?
The teacup program is kind of convoluted. It's not as accessible to veterans as being able to use the legal hemp-derived consumables, which are already federally legal. And so teacup program is a little bit more difficult to get into. It's more expensive, and it puts us a little bit at risk as veterans. We're still trying to, veterans are still a little bit afraid to share that they're using these products just because of the way we're conditioned to believe that this would cost us our career, it'll cost us our Second Amendment rights. And so using the teacup program, it kind of feels like, oh, I'm putting my name on a list. And if they want to come after me, and take away my weapons, they know where to find me because I'm on that list of having essentially admitted to using it. For me, at the time that I was actually having these issues in my personal life and this hardship, I was a federal employee. I'll kind of go back to I believe it was May of 2024, I testified just kind of by happenstance, excuse me. I testified against the attempt to ban back then. And when I testified, I was actually a federal employee, a pretty high-ranking federal employee, and I was risking my career by doing so, but I didn't want to see, I had a level of empathy and I didn't want to continue to see my brothers and sisters taking their lives. So I felt like it was important to really stick my neck out for the veteran community at that time. A few months later is when I really fell into my own mental health crisis, and I knew that these products were something that would work for me. It was easy for me to access. I didn't have to go through the whole process to get on Teacup. And when you're in a situation where you need to make that immediate decision, it's a mental health crisis. It's not something where you can think clearly. It's not something where you can go out and try to find something more accessible. So being able to get access to these products, take them, and then get the pause that you need, that's what worked for me. And so that's how I was able to get these products, was just from a local store that had them available.
Yeah. So, I mean, it certainly, it worked for you. I've seen plenty of veterans testify that it works for them.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have statistics in Texas for, I mean, surely there's total numbers of veterans in Texas. I think that probably exists. Do we have a breakdown of suicides in Texas, veteran suicides in Texas?
It's after we started kind of testifying, Grunshaw Foundation has an initiative. It's called War Cry for Change. And in the War Cry for Change, we're advocating for the VA to end the overprescribing of our veterans. And part of that initiative is really getting an understanding, especially here in Texas, on the number of suicides for veterans. That's not something that's really being tracked. And there was a bill that I think was attempted to be brought in to track those, but they're not yet being tracked. And so right now we have about 1.4 million veterans in Texas. We don't have an accurate number on the veteran suicide rate here in Texas. What I will tell you is, on the day that we all came to testify for against SB3 last year, that same day as I was standing there waiting to testify, I waited 18 hours to testify. I testified at 2:00 in the morning. During that day, while I was waiting to testify, I found out that a veteran, Master at Arms Second Class Mark Miller, went to the Audie Murphy VA, which is in San Antonio, and took his life at the entrance. And that was in protest of the overprescribing of our veterans. And so that happened on the same day that veterans came through in drones in order to testify against this ban. So anyone who is implying that our testimonies are not authentic, I'm very good friends with the father, Dr. Larry Miller, of Mark Miller. This is personal for me.
Yeah.
This is personal. These are real veterans that are taking their lives because they don't have access to other modalities, or they don't know they're allowed or available to them, or they're just afraid to take them because they've been, again, conditioned to think that this will cost me my career. It'll cost me my Second Amendment rights. It'll cost my reputation. So for us to come forward and testify, we're coming out of the gates, and we're kind of giving other veterans permission to start speaking to what their experiences are, especially here in a conservative state like Texas.
Yeah. I mean, what a powerful story. And I can feel, as you're talking about it, I can feel how much it impacted you and how important it is. So the impacts on veterans, if SB5, formerly SB3, if SB5 in the special session does get passed, for those that do, like what are veterans using it for? What are they using hemp products for? Just generally, PTSD. There's got to be other things too. In your case, it was a little bit different. Maybe it was PTSD related, but what do they use it for? What can people use? What can veterans use this for?
In my case, it is PTSD related, and it's something that you live with. And personal hardship can exasperate those issues that you're dealing with, and it can put you right into the middle of a mental health crisis. Many of us have dealt with them more than once in our life. So being able to really just calm that anxiety. Some are using it for physical ailments, physical pain. Many are using it for physical pain. If you have this physical pain that is unaddressed and that you're not able to, for some reason, the VA is not able to help you work through, that can lead to a mental health crisis. Sleep issues, right? A lot of veterans are dealing with sleep issues, being able to use these products to help them sleep. So again, another issue that can morph into a mental health crisis for veterans. So, and to be quite frank, I'm just going to say the recreational use should be okay. I'm not going to say that it should only be available in order to help just veterans with their mental health crisis or their pain or their sleep issues. But if we're allowing society to use alcohol recreationally, I have personally used alcohol and I've personally used these products, and alcohol puts me in a much more dangerous state than these products do. Alcohol, gives you the courage to take your life, right? So it causes blackouts. There's so many issues that alcohol, it causes people to lose their families, to lose everything. So I don't even want to just say, let's advocate for it just so that we can use it. And that's where, the argument of saying, let's make it available in a teacup, it should be available recreationally. Because alcohol is, and it's even more dangerous than hemp-derived consumables are.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about the alcohol portion of it and how it affects veterans. But before we get there, I hope this is okay to ask, because I don't experience PTSD, thankfully, and I hate to think that other people do. That's certainly tragic, and I wish that if I could take it away, I would, but I can't. I'm not. It seems like these hemp products can, though, in some circumstances. When you're in that mode of PTSD, what does that feel like? And then what is it like after taking a hemp product?
For me, from my experience, when I don't necessarily use it recreationally, although I don't advocate against that.
Yeah.
But for me, and I can actually tell you, having the difference of trying to mask my symptoms with alcohol versus masking my symptoms with the, I'll go ahead and use Delta 9 as an example. With alcohol, like I said, it puts me into a more paranoid state. It puts me into a state where I feel like I have the courage to take action on something that I otherwise wouldn't have, to make a permanent decision to a short-term problem.
Yeah.
And it causes a lot of other issues, right? Whereas when I take one of these products, it just completely, like if I'm shaking and I'm trembling from the inside, it completely just calms me immediately. Within seconds, I could just feel a calmness coming over me, and I'm able to either just lay down and take a nap, rest, pause, and then kind of come back through and be like, whoa, that was a close call. Thank God that I didn't follow through with that. Now think about if I have alcohol and I have a hemp-derived consumable, and then I have a gun, right? And I reach for the alcohol, it's going to give me the courage to grab that gun and make that and make that call. If I take the hemp-derived consumable, it's going to make me so relaxed that I wouldn't even go anywhere near that gun, because I'm just relaxed. I'm just feeling like, okay, I can breathe. I can rest. And that was my personal experience. And from what I've talked about, because again, Grunstyle Foundation represents over 79,000 veterans nationwide. And so we have this conversation at a national level. And from all of the veterans that I've spoken to, does it cure our PTSD? No. But it helps with reducing those symptoms and kind of getting us back to a place where we can pause and then we can make a more sound decision.
So speaking on alcohol and veterans, in your personal experience, you very bravely are describing on air, your experience with alcohol versus THC or hemp products. And I imagine that alcohol is a really popular drink among veterans.
Mm-hmm.
How is that working for them?
This is something we're trying to change, right? Yeah. Because alcohol destroys lives. And again, it gives you the courage. And sometimes you take that one drink and it leads you into the next. Next thing you know, you're a full bottle in. So we're working in unison with the VFW. The Grunsaw Foundation and VFW are nationally partnered to try to really move veterans away from alcohol reliance and move them into various modalities of healing that work best for them, more holistic modalities. And so the hemp-derived consumable, it is a product, it is a modality that's available to veterans, but also we promote other modalities to include beekeeping, equine. There's other modalities. You just know, beekeeping is a good example, right? Like a veteran wouldn't know unless they're introduced to that might be something that would work for them. And so getting them away from that alcohol reliance and dependency and moving them into a modality that works best for them.
I've heard of equine therapy, and it sounds wonderful. I've never heard of beekeeping therapy, but that also sounds awesome.
Yes, it's pretty cool.
Getting some of your own honey at the end of it. It's great.
There you go. Yeah. Again, a combat veteran wouldn't normally probably go for a beekeeping modality, but with the foundation, that's something that we introduce them to, and so that they can kind of get an understanding of what works best for them.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Teacup program. That's the Texas Compassionate Use Program. Senator Perry said recently that it's the most robust in the nation. As a veteran, I'm sure you've looked into that, and there's probably a lot of veterans that have, more than just veterans too. Is it the most robust?
I don't believe so. I think that it's also, when you're kind of forcing people to go into that program, veterans, you're forcing higher expenses. It's way more expensive than the hemp-derived consumables, a lot less accessible. And again, it puts veterans at risk of possibly losing some of their rights, including their jobs. A lot of veterans can't even go into the Teacup program because they need security clearances, or they work federal jobs that don't allow them to be able to consume those products, even if they're in the Teacup program.
So Senator Perry also says, and I'm not really entirely sure what this means. I think I know what it means, and I think that you'll have a better idea. He says that there's a strong component of compassionate use disorders being reflected in the suicides and veteran suicides. He says a third of veteran suicides are beginning to have cannabis use disorders in those conversations. You shake your head.
How is that even tracked? I mean, so first off, again, Texas is not tracking veteran suicide in Texas specific. The numbers that we have are at a national level. The testing for THC in the system, I don't know that it's even possible within days of a veteran taking their life. I would like to know where he's getting those statistics from and how that's even being tracked. And I suspect that that's just completely fabricated. The other thing is, how can if they're, one of their arguments is that they can't test to differentiate between a hemp-derived THC versus marijuana, how are they making that differentiation for veteran suicide? And to go beyond that, if that is true data, which I suspect it's not, I suspect it's fabricated. If that is true data, then why would they want to push veterans in the Teacup program anyways? If they believe that the THC is contributing to suicide, that doesn't make sense.
It's an interesting point. Is the Teacup program easy to get into for veterans? No. What? I mean, why not?
You have to get community care. You have to get a referral from your doctor. And I will say, as veteran advocates and people who are working with VAs throughout the country, we've had internal, I guess you could say, whistleblowers let us know that there have been instances where veterans are getting referrals, and then those referrals are getting revoked before the veteran even gets to use them because there's some kind of internal VA, I guess you could say, motive to keep veterans within the system. So my understanding is that no, it's not readily accessible. And again, veterans still kind of have that belief that if they are using these products, that there's all these risks of losing their career. So even if it was accessible, veterans wouldn't even try to get access to it because of the fears of what comes with that. A lot of veterans are not admitting to using these products. They're using them, they're benefiting from them, but they're not admitting to it because of fear of these repercussions, which, again, we've been conditioned our entire careers to believe we'll lose everything if we're using these products, even if it seems legal.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, the hemp products. I mean, testimony after testimony of veterans are out there saying that this is, something that helps them
Mm.
or helps those that they know. And you're describing a situation where even just coming out and talking about it, doing a public testimony, there's some fear behind that they may lose their, whatever, they might lose
Mhm.
their job or whatever it is. Um, what do you think that the real numbers are for veterans and these hemp products? Are they it seems like most of them support it.
Mhm.
It seems like that from
It
what I've seen, and I would think that that's true, but I'm not really sure.
I don't have the number
Sure.
because, like we said, it's something that veterans are still not ready to come forward and share in many cases. I would say from my experience of advocating, it's definitely a lot higher, and even in states where it's not legal, there's a desire for it, is what I'll say. And I think that's why it is highly offensive that Senator Perry is accusing veterans who have testified of being paid to testify. The risk that was being taken in order to come forward and say, hey, listen, I use these products. I'm in a senior level position, the Texas state commander for the VFW, for him to come forward and outwardly say that, what he's doing is he's giving other veterans kind of permission to come forward and say, I've also used them. He's giving them that courage to finally step up and say, I want to advocate for myself because I don't want to lose access to these products.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of courage to come out and say something like that publicly on a national stage, and then to be accused by somebody who's never even raised his right hand to step foot in protecting this country and protecting our rights. To have somebody like that make an accusation towards real combat veterans who are not only having to fight for our freedom overseas, but now we're having to fight for our freedoms here in this country. It's offensive. It's diabolical.
Yeah. Well, so I wonder, the argument is often made for people who oppose SB5 and total bans that all you're going to do is just push people into the black market.
Mhm.
Is that true for veterans, do you think?
Absolutely. You're going to push people into the black market, and then you're risking them using products that are not regulated, products that may be laced with other things. Yeah, you're pushing people right into the black market.
And as far as like regulations are concerned, is there, in your opinion, is there what regulations? Regulations were talked about, but the only regulation that they're proposing right now is a total ban. And is that a regulation? I guess technically maybe, but are there regulations that you think that might be beneficial for the in place of SB5?
Absolutely. Age gating. Age gating is something we've been advocating for all along, right? Age gating, making sure that these products are properly regulated by way of not being laced, right? Synthetic products are already illegal, right?
Like
So
that's
just
K2, salvia, that sort of stuff.
yes,
Yeah.
Splice, I think it's called, or
Spice.
Spice, yeah, I think it's called.
Look at you. You don't even know what it's called. That's good.
Yeah, because I don't use it.
Yeah.
So those products are already illegal. Just keeping them out of the market and keeping them out of these shops, that's what should be done. But to just outright ban it, I think that's an issue. And think about it. You have veterans. It's like, I have a choice. I can use this product and stay alive, or I just completely do away with this product and go back to a system that's killing our veterans.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't, it seems like veterans are being put in a tough spot with this
Mhm.
for sure. It is surprising to learn that there is no age gates on THC products.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, for sure. I think that everyone would agree with that. Again, this is being the SB5 is being couched in the we don't want kids to get it, and I've never heard anybody disagree with that,
Right.
not once. So why isn't there an age gate? I think it's a good question to be answered. I want to ask you more generally about veterans and politics. It seems like they're often used in politics to get something passed when they want something passed. And a great example is just from this 89th Texas legislature. They passed a $50 million ibogaine study for veterans, and a lot of the push was we're going to use this to help study PTSD in veterans, and that sounds great. And why not? It sounds like a great idea. You guys are wanting to help veterans, maybe that'll help. Cool. But now veterans are kind of being ignored. I don't even know that a lot of veterans go testify in favor of that ibogaine study. Maybe so, but there's a lot of veterans that are testifying against SB5. What do you think that is?
I was there for testimony in favor of the Ibogaine study, and many of the veterans that were testifying in opposition of SB3 were over there testifying in favor. So it was like we were kind of going between the two. Because this is something I'm really proud to be part of, the Texas Veteran Mental Health Initiatives, is we're paving the way, and we're making our voices loud here. And so I'm really proud to be part of that. That was a historic bill that was passed. And to be quite frank, veterans came forward and were part of the historic veto of SB3. I'm really proud to have been amongst that community and to be able to help with rallying people and giving people the opportunity to actually speak and share their voices. I would say that we're not being listened to, or we're being ignored, because we're definitely being loud and we're definitely being heard.
Yeah.
But we're being ignored, and even in some instances being gaslit because there's some financial gain there, and so it seems to weigh in favor of these legislators to not listen to us in this case, and it's the same legislators that would normally use veterans as a pawn to get a bill passed. But now all of a sudden, what is it that's driving them to want so badly to ban these products? And that's a question that should be asked. Who is funding this? What is there to gain from this? And we've seen there's possibly some alcohol industry lobbying that's happening. That's kind of pushing in that direction, possibly restaurant lobbying. I don't have all the data in front of me, but
I don't think anybody does. Yeah.
Yeah, but these are the same legislators that tend to elevate the voices of veterans in order to pass a bill. So I would ask the same question: is why are they so hell-bent on banning these products when veterans are coming forward courageously in large groups in order to say, hey, look, we need these. Keep these here available to us, at least, especially while we're waiting for the Ibogaine research to come through, while we're waiting for Secretary Collins to get some of these research initiatives into the VA system, which he's trying to do. And so I give him credit on that. I don't want to sit here and bash the VA.
Sure, of course.
But he's trying to get these modalities available to veterans. But in the interim, keep this one that is accessible available to veterans, so that they have, when they're caught in that crosshair of, I feel like I want to take my life, they have something that they can pull off the shelf and take.
Yeah. You're wearing a Cannabis Helps shirt.
I sure am.
And it sounds like that's your whole message. You're not saying that cannabis is the only, that hemp or whatever is not the only answer, but it helps, and it helps a lot of veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And is there anything that you wanted to add before we, to that effect, before we sign off?
That's kind of what I want to share is, like I said earlier, the suicide rate is not going down. With over $3 billion being spent on suicide in the VA, it's not going down. And so at Grunstyle Foundation, our goal is not only to advocate for making sure that we're ending the overprescribing, that veterans are getting informed consent and safe deprescribing of these medications, but also that they're being introduced to healing modalities that work for them. And so again, there's various healing modalities that we like to make sure they're introduced to, but in the end, the goal is to have healed veterans. That's what we want healed veterans who are out there thriving, who are able to continue to serve because it benefits society as a whole. Yeah.
Well, Janae Sergio, I really appreciate you taking the time. Is there a website or social media that you wanted to plug?
grunstylefoundation.org. You can find all of the work and the initiatives that we're doing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time. I really appreciate it, and best of luck to you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.